Hello and welcome to the Monsters, Myths, and Mayhem podcast. This is Silver here, and our co-host is...
What? Chaotically.
So, I have no clue what we're doing today, listeners. Oh, listeners.
Zero ideas.
Chaotic has decided to surprise me with this week's episode and give me no clues whatsoever on it.
So you know it's supposed to be a Halloween episode. Like, obviously we kind of messed up and didn't record it, but this would be our would-be Halloween special.
Yes.
And you have no guesses as to what I would choose.
I can think of either maybe Jason or Hocus Pocus, maybe Sabrina, maybe it is the Dullahan or Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
I really considered it being like Hocus Pocus and the Sanderson sisters or Sabrina, and I went through them, but ultimately when it comes down to our monster myth or mayhem, that comes down to witches, and I felt like that was really broad. So you would be correct with your final guess.
Oh, my final guess?
Uh-huh.
The Ninja Turtles, right?
Oh my god.
No, I know, it's the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Is that my final guess?
Yes, Ichabod Crane. Yep. We're going to talk about the Headless Horseman today.
Sounds like a good time that we might lose our heads over.
I can't even look you in the eyes right now. So what all do you know about Ichabod Crane?
I know that he is supposed to be a headless horseman or a Dullahan, and that he rides and at midnight, I believe, on Halloween, and anybody that encounters him loses their head. Then I know he's been in just some various... he's had his own TV show, and he time travels. That is pretty much all I have about him, because I have not seen the movie in a very long time. I think the only newest rendition I've seen of him is when he was in Scooby-Doo.
Really? That's like your most recent?
Legend of Sleepy Hollow might be more recent, but it's been so long since I actually did see it that I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, that's fair. Sleepy Hollow, you're talking like the Tim Burton movie?
No, the TV show.
Oh, the TV show. Did you ever watch the Tim Burton movie with Johnny Depp?
Probably in middle school, high school. All those years ago. Unless there was a newer one out.
I don't think it's that new.
Johnny Depp hasn't been in many movies since Pirates of the Caribbean.
So Sleepy Hollow with Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci was created in 1999.
Okay, that is a lot longer ago than I originally anticipated.
Yes. I think that's because I was probably middle school age when I first watched it, so I wouldn't have associated it with 1999 either. I think we just reached a certain age and obviously watched it. So it's been a long time since I've read the story. But the original story of Sleepy Hollow is by Washington Irving. It's very, very old. The original story is that Ichabod Crane was from a town called Sleepy Hollow. He was fixated on a woman named Katrina. He wanted to marry her. He wanted to be with her. They were together. And he comes to find that there's a man Also competing for her heart, named, I think it's Brom Van Brunt. They go to this party. Ichabod's invited. There's all kinds of stuff. There's wine. There's tons to do. And of course, Brom shows up on like the fastest horse in the village, right? The horse's name is called Daredevil.
Is he blind?
No. I knew you were going to do it. No. Ichabod's dancing with Katrina, and Brom gets super upset. He's very jealous. You can tell he's very upset. The Sleepy Hollow myth was that there was a headless horseman that roamed around at night. He basically ends the party, and he's super excited with where he's at in life. Like, him and Katrina are doing so well. But when they say goodnight, Ichabod feels like this dreary sadness wash over him. Like, suddenly he thinks that maybe they're done or not together. And he gets super upset, and he starts to think, maybe she's just using me to get at Brom, because who would want me over this amazing... I kind of think of Brom like Gaston, if I will. He's like the big hunter, he's big brawny, he's handsome, everybody thinks he's the bomb. Like, why would Katrina want to be with Ichabod, the little, somewhat wealthy villager from Sleepy Hollow? And Ichabod, on his way home, is contemplating all of this, and he sees the Headless Horseman. And he's like, who are you? Where are you from? And of course, they don't answer. They just ride away. And Ichabod's like, you know what? If I get home, I'm safe. It's fine. So he kicks his horse to life. He just starts running. He's doing his thing. With a crack of thunder, the Headless Horseman appears beside him and takes off his head and chucks it at Ichabod. And Ichabod falls off his horse, hits the dirt. Ichabod's never found. They find Ichabod's horse, but do not find him. They walk all over the valley. They're looking everywhere. The only other thing they found was his hat and broken pieces of a round orange pumpkin. The townspeople talked about it for weeks and weeks and weeks. They couldn't figure out what was going on. So an older farmer that ends up in New York City is like, I saw Ichabod. He's in New York. He's fine. He's safe. And Katrina ends up getting this huge wedding thrown with Brom Van Brunt. And everybody's very curious because Brom tends to laugh or like reconvene and reconcile about memories, almost as if he were the one that did it to Ichabod. He like jokes about it and thinks it's funny, and every time it's brought up he just gives a little chuckle and like he knows something everybody else doesn't. And apparently nobody thought that was weird. They just continued to let it happen. He is technically our Sleepy Hollow protagonist.
Brom is, or Ichabod?
No, Ichabod is. Ichabod's technically our protagonist. He's a very uneventful protagonist in the original story. He's not like, I'm going to fight for Katrina. He's very anxiety filled. He's got a lot of disdain. He's very upset with himself. And then when he sees this Sleepy Hollow monster, he's very, I'm just going to get home. I'm not going to fight it. So he's like the opposite of Brom, But like in the end of it, Brom is our antagonist, our villain. So he's who we would assume is the Headless Horseman, and maybe even planned the whole thing to get Katrina. This is just the original story. The Ichabod Crane and Sleepy Hollow I want to talk about today is the one where Ichabod is in fact the Headless Horseman altogether. And you and I kind of touched on, was it last episode when we talked about the Headless Horseman also being an apocalyptic rider?
Last episode was when Nuggies came in with goblins. So
it would have been episode before. It would have been the Cthulhu episode.
Yeah, so it'd been 3 episodes ago. I think we did Godzilla, Cthulhu, Scream with bats, goblins, and then now Ichabod Crane, who is in fact not a bird. They consider the Headless Horseman to be death.
So originally, I think we were talking about like the different kinds of stories there are. There is a twisted version where Ichabod himself is the Headless Horseman. The Tim Burton film itself actually has Christina Ricci in charge of the Headless Horseman, kind of like witchcraft almost. And when he goes to hell as an apocalyptic member, as he goes to hell as an apocalyptic member, they kind of twisted the tales together in that one. He drags Christina Ricci with him. There's a particular storyline. I think it might be the Jeff Goldblum version. But it's like Ichabod wants Katrina and Brahm wants Katrina, but then there's like a fourth entity or something thrown in the mix, another woman that wants Brahm. And they kind of like go back and forth, and then that's the age old one of like Brahm tells Ichabod, "Ooh, there's this creepy mofo in the woods that does headless horseman shit," and Ichabod's like, "Yeah, okay," and then he goes home and he's like, "Oh wait, there's a dude in the woods that does creepy headless horseman shit." There's all kinds. There's kinds that I've seen where like one is like the mayor of Sleepy Hollow and he's doing it to keep everybody in line. Like there's so many neat versions and storytellings of it. There's a lot of theories that Ichabod Crane's mother herself was a witch, because he was a schoolmaster, so he's super intelligent, which would make him wizard or warlock to study.
Wizard studies magics. Warlock is given their power to them by a entity.
Okay, so a little bit of both. Like if he was born into it, then he'd be like a warlock, but like he's learning from the books as well. So like wizardry. There's all kinds of, and then like of course with all of this going on, especially witchcraft era, Salem witch trials, kind of circling back to like Hocus Pocus, Sabrina, that kind of thing. It could be very well said that he is an entity or a summoned demon of a witch or something to the effect of, especially in those day and ages when the story was first written, whether or not he was indeed formed of witchcraft, or Brahm was some kind of maybe wizard or magical being that caused himself to be apocalyptic like that.
With so many different versions out there, it's pretty much just kind of pick your favorite at the moment.
Yeah, pretty much. My favorite version, and I've written a version where Ichabod is the Headless Horseman. So there's a version out there, and I cannot for the life of me, if anybody knows it, please let me know. But there's a written version dedicated, and I think it might have a short with it, like a little video short. But there's a dedicated one where Brahm comes up to Ichabod when the party's going on and tells him these creepy stories of the Headless Horseman. And Ichabod's like, "Whatever, dude. I don't believe you. It's whatever." And Ichabod and Brahm go outside to like leave or whatever because the party's over. Katrina dismisses them. And Brahm's like, "Ooh, you better be careful in the woods." And Ichabod's like, "Okay, whatever." So as he's riding, he starts to get like nervous, panicky. Ichabod does. And he starts like running and he runs off into the woods. And Brahm's like, like he's weak. He's stupid. And then Brahm encounters the Headless Horseman who ends up basically killing him. And it was Ichabod. So our protagonist takes a huge twist and ends up killing our antagonist or our annoyance of a character and gets the girl in the end. So that's kind of like the twisted version of it. I've written one like that, and I know that there's an actual published writer out there that I believe that has written one like it, and there might even be a short. I'm pretty sure I watched one on YouTube when I was like, I don't know, 16. But that's probably one of my favorites. I also really like the version. There's a version in Teen Wolf where he's the apocalyptic rider. It's the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and of course one is a headless horseman. I just really like the idea of it. I love the Pumpkinhead theme. I love the King of Halloween kind of thing. He's really, really spooky. His horse is like made of coal and smoke and terrifying and like half bone, half skin. Like it's just a really neat concept to me altogether for the Headless Horseman.
And he himself is wearing like 1800s fancy man jackets.
Yep.
Is his head in a net bag down below, or just tied off maybe? Where does he keep his original head with him in these ones? I don't remember. Or is it just a pumpkin head?
Well, it's just a pumpkin head in most versions. In most versions, he literally is just a floating pumpkin head. And it just kind of like respawns or whatever on top of him if he throws it. In most versions, there's a couple of versions where he keeps a live head on him, but he can only keep it on for so long before it'll fall off. Some of them have it tucked down in his shirt, like where it's beneath his collar, and others have it where he keeps it in his saddlebag. So it just depends, because there's a really twisted dark version where he pulls his head out of the saddlebag to show that he's like, it's really creepy. And then in the Tim Burton version, he's hiding or stuck in this like tree, and the tree is made out of like all of his victims and like blood and guts and flesh. It's very weird. So he keeps his head in there and stuff, and it's just very there's a lot of twisted ways that he does it, but the most common is that he's either tucked down into the shirt, or he's got it on his saddlebag, or he's just the floating pumpkin head, period.
So he pretty much has infinite ammo. He just chucks his head and pops another one on, chucks it again.
Pretty much. That's pretty much all I have for like information. The time and stuff I think is really cool, because I really wanted to do the witches and like the trials and stuff as well, but it was just such an open umbrella. It's hard to talk about. So I really wanted to kind of focus on, he's one of my favorite literature wise as well. I know we kind of touched on literature already this month, but I really, really enjoyed the Sleepy Hollow theme when I was a kid all the way up to now into my adulthood. I think it's a really neat concept. I think it can be taken lightly as a children's story, just to scare you and run you off. And it can also be taken as an adult as a really, really cool mythology or legend.
Yeah, it's Sleepy Hollow can, like you said, it's fits a wide age group of kids, teens, adults.
That's pretty much the lore or background of it without me getting into just like my favoritism stuff. Do you want to jump into media? I know we talked a little bit about it, but
yeah, we can. On to the media.
My favorite, as I said, is like it's the 1999 version with Tim Burton. I thought that was a really dark. I've not watched it in forever, and I probably should have to brush up, but it's one of my favorites. It's very dark. Ichabod is a very scientific, very intelligent man. It's very cool to watch. And of course, Lady Van Tressel is a witch in that one, so it's very spooky. In that sense, he's in all kinds of stuff. He's in stuff that like isn't even Sleepy Hollow. He's in like Sopranos. They have a buddy in there that they used to call Ichabod Crane. There's a video game called Wolf Among Us. It's a Telltale's game, where it's like a fable and it has him in it. There's a couple of films. There's a computer animated like little TV specials. There's a lot of like books and writing fan fictions. It's really neat to see how many people have taken it and just kind of full sent with it.
I think the Sleepy Hollows TV series shows him as like a monster hunter almost as well. Ichabod Crane.
Yeah, he's like a whole that's kind of what the 1999 version did too. Like they made him, in that one he's more of a scientific researcher of like the unknown, and then in the TV show he is almost like a full-on like werewolf / monster / beast hunter.
Yeah, I don't know much with him in it per se.
Him
I know
himself
there's a
like
lot, but
well, he like almost anything mythological he pops up in, whether or not it's the apocalyptic version, if it's the actual Ichabod Crane / Brahm version. He's in a lot. Like there's hints of him in Assassin's Creed. There's hints of him in Scooby-Doo. I think there's like a whole Scooby-Doo episode. They do, like I said, there's tons of people that still write it. There's so much. He's in a lot, and it's always kind of subtle. He's never like the main character. He probably deserves to be. But what is that? It might have been the show called Sleepy Hollow. It was like a brand new series. They didn't stay on it for very long. He was like a detective.
yeah, I think that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe.
You're not thinking of the original TV series? Because in the original one as well. And then there's like the little Disney animation, of course, where it was just a little animation of Ichabod and Brahm.
The one I'm thinking of, let's see, aired between 2013 and 2017.
Yeah, so that would have been the one where he was a detective. And he was working with them as like a, was he the mortician? Or was he just like the ex of the main detective lady and like had retired? I think that one was where he just was like the ex of the main cop lady, and he was like doing his own research on the side to stop all of the mythological creatures.
It's been so long since I've seen it that I couldn't really tell you.
Yeah, it was a good one though. Definitely 10 out of 10 recommend. It's a good one to go watch if you enjoy the Headless Horseman. Yeah, so that's and that's mostly media. You know, Scooby-Doo's got just about every mythological creature too. So Scooby-Doo's got an episode or a movie with him. You want to go on to Mayhem?
Yeah, we can move on to Mayhem. mayhem-wise, I think Ichabod Crane would be good at causing very localized mayhem. I don't think
I
he'd be
agree.
very worldwide. I mean, if he
No, unless there was like a bunch of them everywhere, then we might have a problem. But like just a singular one, like even a singular one per town, I feel like wouldn't be sketchy.
no, especially if he only really comes out around Halloween at night. It's pretty much just trick or treat on a different day then. As everybody stays inside, watches movies, watches him drive on by. No need to encounter him or threaten him. It is possible to kill him, right? Or is he more of a spirit?
No, he's possible to kill.
Just not by decapitation.
Right. I think it's like kind of like in the Johnny Depp one. They just had to figure out like where his home base was or like where he was going back to, or like I'd imagine even if somebody killed Brom in the middle of the day, you know, like Headless Horseman would die because he's not able to come out at night and like save him like during the day kind of thing. So I feel like you would, if you kill Brom, you'd kill Headless Horseman. You know what I mean?
How do they transform into the Headless Horseman? Do they just pop their head off, or are they like magical girl spinning, transforming?
They don't really say. There's a lot of different versions. Some of them is like his head starts to spin kind of thing. Some of it's just kind of like he disappears into the night and comes back out. It just kind of depends on the story. I'd imagine you could get as creative as you wanted with the idea of how he does it.
So he is vulnerable to a lot of the same weaknesses humans have, plus that of pumpkins as well. Baseball bat would probably do pretty good, but he might just regrow his head. Yeah, I don't think it would feel very good to be hit by a flying pumpkin, especially at the speed of a horse trot, a horse gallop.
Definitely not.
I mean, some of those pumpkins can get very big. If he gets like the world record size pumpkin of like 700 pounds, just riding on this horse, you'd just see this headless horseman with a bobblehead like head. He'd look like a Funko Pop.
For sure. It'd be definitely weird. I think overall, not super like world ending. He's not like crazy scary. Easily avoided by a curfew and not going out around Halloween. But I think he's very interesting. His intrigue makes him interesting.
Definitely interesting concept of a monster or creature or man. Not really sure. He's kind of a monster man.
I'd say that's fair.
I guess we'll start wrapping things up here. Shall give a thanks to our patrons of Mondi, Thor, Ruby, and now Nuggies. Thank you all.
We love our nuggies.
Thank you all for supporting, and anybody that's left reviews, thank you as well. Any announcements, Chaotic?
I have a DBD tournament coming up. It's like a small community tournament coming up the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So anybody that wants to come watch that, or if you are possibly interested, please get a hold of me. It's just a really small community tourney, nothing crazy. Could probably use one more team if we wanted. And then other than that, our signups for our big DBD tournament started. I'm sure that Silver can get on the podcast Twitter and just retweet my original tourney tweet off of my Twitter, but also on my Chaotically Twitter, you can find the signups and stuff. It's a completely open public team DBD tourney. So any of my DBD players out there that like to play, please feel free to sign up. We'd love to have you. I think that's it, though.
One more update regarding the podcast. We usually try and have releases on Monday, and we usually record on a Thursday, which doesn't give me much time to edit. So I am going to start releasing on Wednesdays. That way we have a full week's worth of time so I can try and edit things, make things a little bit better, try some different techniques and whatnot, see what you all like and dislike about it.
Woohoo!
That's all for the updates. Chaotic with the outro.
Join us again next Monday on Monsters, Myths, and Mayhem, found on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Anchor.fm. Silver and Chaotic talk about how monsters and myths came to be and how they would be received in modern-day society. Follow, like, and subscribe to support. Also find the podcast on Twitter and Discord with the links below to keep up to date with the newest merch and activity. Besides, who knows what mayhem we will get into next.